Matt, Ryan, thank you so much for joining us today in Voces del Yoga. We are very happy to have you in this new episode.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you. Privilege is mine, as they say. Thank you for inviting me. I hope I've got something worthwhile to say for people to listen to. Maybe, maybe not. Let's find out, right?
I'm sure you do. Well, first of all, I love the name of the project. One of the projects that you run is Ashtanga Yoga School. I
Okay.
like
Yeah.
it. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that idea of school.
Well, that came out of at the back end of COVID, when everyone was unsure about what they were doing. The only kind of way to practice was within Zoom, and it's like the community was all a bit kind of all over the show, a bit fractured, and I guess people wanted to explore Ashtanga yoga, or certainly people that I were in touch with, and kind of weren't sure how to kind of go about it. And we just talked about Mysore, and trying to get to Mysore these days is quite difficult. Just the kind of the side of getting yourself booked in, that's difficult. How that goes. And so I guess I wanted to try and create something that people could connect to. Like, when we first started, the only way to practice was to go to Mysore, right? When I first started, a million years ago, I had a teacher, but beyond that, it was like, yeah, you got to go to Mysore. There's nothing outside of that. And so off I went to Mysore. So it was like, can we, a colleague of mine, Donna, we kind of got together and said, can we create something to give off a kind of, not a same experience, but this kind of create a community. And we meet kind of once a month. We do like this 12-month immersion. And we do Mysore, we do lead classes, and then we kind of do, people have asked me, is it teacher training? And I'm like, I can go off on my teacher training soapbox moment if you want. In fact, I'll do it. Shall I do it?
Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah,
stage is yours.
Yeah. I find the whole teacher training thing, I think there's a lot of bullshit involved in it. Bullshit by way that, these kind of, first of all, this 200 magic hour length. Where they've pulled that out of their ass, who knows where they've got 200 hours from. But then it's like, it gets accredited by these, and here's the thing, self-regulating yoga bodies. Now, that in and of itself is just, to me, right, there's a problem there. They decide what you should be teaching, and it's like, I've been doing this for 25 years. I don't need some dickhead in an office to tell me what I should be teaching and what I shouldn't be teaching. And what a lot of the criteria in there, kind of what they're saying to teach, it kind of feels to me irrelevant. It's like, I've got things that I found really worthwhile that I want to bring into my immersion. I don't feel like I have to follow anyone's advice. Sorry, went from one there. So, sorry. Ultimately,
it was
self-made
man.
Finding things that have empowered me, that have inspired me outside of practice. So, of course, it's Ashtanga yoga. Ashtanga yoga is that the foundation of the whole thing. But then we've got like modules on Zen, and then like transpersonal psychology. Just different things, different ideas, looking at Western spirituality, Eastern spirituality, and then we've got pranayama and all kinds of things. So it's this really kind of immersive experience where, and it's the kind of, in some ways, it's rebuilding a community that became a little bit fractured through the COVID thing, through the Patabi Joyce whole kind of nightmare thing. It's like, can we bring it back to something? And hoping to kind of rebuild, and this is the inaugural course this year in 2024, and we're going to do it in 2025, but keeping in touch so the people who have attended this year's course can come and do lead classes and things, and so it just rebuilds the community, rebuilds it in one way but creates it in another. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Sometimes like the name school picked up my attention. Well, first, when I used to run a yoga school in Madrid, and the name still is Ashtanga School Madrid.
Okay,
and
nice.
yeah, and the logic behind it was actually teaching people, because I didn't learn Ashtanga yoga. I mean, I started practicing almost 15 years ago in Madrid, very briefly, but then the bulk of my practice has been done in Dublin, London, in Mysore, and in the US.
Okay.
And so,
Oh, whereabouts in the US?
in California.
Oh, whereabouts? I lived in California.
You did?
Yeah.
This home practice mainly.
Oh, right. Okay. Whereabouts
Yeah, I did my own thing.
I lived in LA for maybe 3 or 4 years.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was in San Francisco.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, actually, sorry, I went to Tim Miller a few times, and I did a program with him, one of the 100 hours program.
He's a
primary series.
top guy. Yeah, in Encinitas, right?
I completely forgot about that. Like, sometimes I just don't remember things.
I went to visit him one day. That was nice.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And so you learn from these very knowledgeable people that have like programs. And I think you get the right expectations. I like what you mentioned about immersion. You get like an immersive experience, but there is a program, and there are people that are knowledgeable of different stuff that bring it together. And so you get a sense of what the practice entails beyond just going to Mysore class and getting adjustments, which in my eyes, it falls a little short.
Well, I think that you know, there's always something extra. And, you know, part of this, the immersion of Ashtanga Yoga School is bringing other people in. Like, do you know Luke Jordan?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, I nicked the name school from him, because he has his summer school in Portugal, doesn't he? I thought, right, yeah, I'm nicking school from you, mate. So, but don't tell him that. And then so he's going to do a kind of module on chanting and things. And then I've got this Zen teacher called Henry Schuckman, who runs the Mountain Cloud Zen Center in Santa Fe, New Mexico. So he's going to do something. And I mean, we even had in someone doing gut health and all things around that, you know, about putting the right stuff in your body. I mean, one of the students on the course, she works in a circus performer. So one afternoon we got her to do a module on hula hoops, because she's great at hula hoops. So that was fun. Okay. You know, just to kind of add a little bit of a playfulness thing to it, and people loved it. You know, because self-esteem can be a little bit too serious sometimes, a little bit too over serious. And I think it's, you know, for me, it's about wanting to create, you know, this experience, but having the whole, like, you know, immersion. There's going to be there's intensity to it, but joy. You know, there needs to be more joy, I find.
Actually. Yeah, I think the Ashtangi, if you like, the idea of discipline is very clear.
Yes, it is, yeah.
You have to be disciplined, you have to do this, you have to do this practice the way it's supposed to be done, and you have a guru and you have this dedication, all of that. But I get the feeling that sometimes when you get too caught up in all of that, you forget about living. I mean, life kind of loses its appeal, because you are just living in the Ashtanga yoga bubble. And that's something that when you go overly militant about it, which is something that happened to me. I
realize, yeah.
Your life can become really, it can really shrink.
Yeah,
that was my experience.
But it becomes quite one-dimensional, doesn't it? It becomes too one-dimensional. I mean, I'm very much open to the, you know, the mat being the microcosm to life being the macrocosm. So whatever happens on the mat, you can take into your life, and it becomes too kind of one-dimensional. This, you know, too rigid. You know. Yeah. Then I'm sure it's down on record somewhere as Pattabhi Joyce is saying, you know, the most flexible thing that you need is your mind.
That's a fantastic point.
Which I think is, you know, possibly the most important thing to have, right?
Yeah.
You know, and the idea of, you know, I guess that's been always my bugbear a little bit, is you know, the idea that flexibility gets rewarded with status.
Okay.
Which, I mean, you know, I've been, you know, I've been rewarded that status too because of flexibility, but that's all it is, right? And it's that can become overemphasized or too much emphasized on, and yeah. Sorry, where were we?
No, we were talking about having a flexible mind, and many times when you go overly militant, how I find it paradoxical, like how you, and maybe you can, along these lines, you can let us know how you got started into this yoga thing, how you got, what caught your attention. But
have you got like times, 4 hours?
Okay, we can do like a mini series.
Yeah, I'll try and do it. Yeah, a docu-series. This is a part 1, folks. Yeah.
Episode 1, part 1.
Yeah. Depends how many people tune in. If there's a part 2 or not. So I mean the short version is, you know, I used to be a DJ, yeah, and it's funny when you say certain words on this computer, Siri rocks up. Siri, I don't need you. Right, sorry. I used to be a DJ, and, you know, work in nightclubs, you know, you get involved with the whole party scene and everything that goes along with that. And, you know, I basically blew my mind out. Taking too much ecstasy is the kind of the short version, really. And I developed this this very little known disorder called depersonalization, which I don't need to go into now. Google it if you want to find out about it, but it's very, very unpleasant. It's very extreme. And, you know, and I was trying to rehabilitate myself through any way, shape, form. And, you know, I tried everything from Western to Eastern to flower essences to acupuncture to whatever. And bizarrely, yoga was just another thing. You know, a nightclub that I used to work in, someone said, "Oh, you know, why don't you try yoga?" And I'm like, you know, at this moment, I'll be trying anything. So, you know, I'll be like, you know, what the fuck's yoga? I've got no idea what it is, really. You know, I had this vague idea. It was like all women and lycra and churches, but beyond that, I didn't really have any clue, you know. So she gave me the name of this teacher. I went along. I hated it because it was, you know, I think it was primary series, but I had no, you know, I mean, this is quite funny. That maybe I was a couple of weeks into it, maybe a month. I can't remember. It was a long time ago. But someone has said, you know, what yoga is it? And that blew my mind. I'm like, I didn't even have any concept that there was different types of yoga. So I had to go back to the teacher. I was like, what yoga are we doing? And he said, oh, Ashtanga yoga. Yeah, oh, right, okay, great. So, you know, so I kind of, you know, I dived into this practice pretty much, you know, to try and rehabilitate myself. And just the pure physicality of the practice, I found, just gave me just a small bit of respite, you know. And so I was like, right, okay, I need to, I'll keep going. You know, the first class, you know, I used to joke it was like 2 classes in one, my first and last, you know, because it killed me, it floored me, man. I remember thinking, I'm never going to do that again. It's fucking, you know. But I managed to go back the week after and the week after. And then I remember at the time I was on the dole, i.e. I wasn't working. And so I figured out, right, this is a sequence. If I can do the sequence, I'll just do it at home. And that's what I did. You know, I was just like, right, I can do the sequence, I'm going to do it at home. So that's the boom, 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 boom. And then, you know, I did a bit of research, borrowed some money, as I like to say, hung up the headphones and naffed off to Mysore in 2000, you know. And rocking up to this was like, you know, the old Shala in Lakshmipuram, and, you know, the 12 people. And I was like, I mean, that was just bananas, you know, because I was just like, and still am really, I was just some kind of shit kicker from Manchester who'd rocked up to like Mysore and all the kind of, you know, the holier than thou Ashtangis waiting in line to hand over the mullah to the guru. And I was all a little bit kind of cynical about it, and still am, to be quite honest, you know. Like, how much I've got to give you, you know. And yeah, so, yeah. And here we are, 25 years, I've still been going. I mean, you know, it's bizarrely enough, not last year, I think it was last year, I got diagnosed with ADHD. And I mentioned it to kind of some close friends. Oh God, and they were like, pretty much every one of them said, "Oh yeah, we thought you knew you had that, because we knew you had that." And so yeah, so I guess when I stop talking and go and talk about something else, then you know why. Where were we? So yeah, here we are, 25 years later. Yeah. So so basically, I've kind of a little bit of history of kind of, you know, doing one thing for a while and then going doing something else, and the very fact that I've stuck with this practice for like the best part of 25 years is kind of, I think it's really testament to it, to the practice, the power of the practice. Really, when it comes, you know, boils down to the very, you know, forget all the peripheral stuff. Go into Mysore, the mat, the practice, me doing it, boom. That's, you know, in its most simple form. It has this unique power. It certainly has for me. And you know, so the school was all about, right, okay, I feel like I can kind of at a place now where, you know, I've been teaching for a good while too. You know, when I got back from, I mean, this is a true story. When I got back from Mysore, you know, I was like, I certainly didn't want to, you know, but work in nightclubs and things again. And I wasn't gonna, you know, what I'm gonna do now. And I was like, I'll have to start teaching. You know, I had no real idea how to teach. But I tell you, one thing that I did know how to do was PR, because I used to help with the PR with the nightclubs. So I did loads of leaflets and put posters up. This is a true story. My first ever yoga class that I taught, I got 76 people rocking up.
Oh wow!
76. It was I was like Sharat of Manchester. And yeah, I mean, good. Bizarrely enough, that I'd hired a dance hall, so it was big enough to get 70 odd people in. And I have no idea how, you know, most of them had never done yoga before, and I taught them primary series. Fucking killed everybody. You know, it was a surprise that anybody came back the week after. So I mean, that one class grew into two, and yada yada yada. You know, here we are, 25 years later.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's a cool story, man.
Yeah, well, it was a real baptism of fire when, you know, people kept on coming through the door and giving me £5. I was like, right, okay, shit.
Oh, wow.
You know, all of a sudden,
this is working.
You know, yeah, a lot of cash. yeah.
That's very cool. Yeah, the little, do you remember this form that I sent you? Where you sent me a little bit of information about yourself.
Oh, right, yeah.
So there are a few things that really caught my interest in here. Well, the first one is actually that, and this is just out of curiosity. I don't know how relevant this will be to this conversation, really, but just out of curiosity, it's 5 siblings.
I'm Pisces.
You're a Pisces, okay? You're a Pisces, and
that wasn't your question. Sorry.
The youngest boy in your family, and you have 4 older sisters. How was that growing up? I'm just like curious.
Yeah, it's, well, I was wearing a dress till I was 12. Me hand-me-downs, that was a joke. Sorry. I said it, I was wearing a dress till I was 12.
Sorry.
Hand me down now. So it was fun. Yeah, sorry. I was it was I don't know really. You know, I kind of just did my own thing. I mean, I played a lot of football when I was a kid, and 2 of my sisters played football with me, so that was quite fun, you know.
Cool.
And then we moved around a lot as a kid, which I've continued to do in my adulthood too, bizarrely enough. Nowhere glamorous, just all parts around England and So it's hard to say. I guess here's a thing which might kind of be relevant. You know, because I've got 4 older sisters and my dad wasn't around a lot. Don't need to go into that. So I had a very good, you know, good sense of the matriarchy, you know.
Okay.
And you know, so when I'm rocking up to Mysore, and it's very much patriarchal, That's the right
patriarchal.
Yeah. I was always kind of, I'm not calling this guy guru. He's, you might be your guru, he's not mine, type of thing. I was always just a bit, and I guess perhaps whether that's a Manchester thing or a Northern England thing, being a slightly kind of cynical and standoffish, like, because I always kind of felt it was very kind of male, which it is a little bit in it, Ashtanga.
Many of them, too many of them. I agree.
Yeah. In fact, I'll stop now. I quit.
No, I agree. If you look at the demographics, this is something that's been in my mind quite a bit. If you actually touch on a couple of things that are really interesting. The first one is the demographics of the practitioners. I mean, Ashtanga yoga draws males, but also females. It's like the practitioner, like 70%, 65% ish will be female. But then leading teachers, there's still so many leading teachers that are males, and there's nothing wrong with that. But as women, we have some particularities that the man cannot understand. For example, menstruation. I mean, a man can. There's no way that a man can relate.
Well, I've got 4 sisters, so I can relate a little bit.
But you're an exception, Mark. You're an exception. But they're like these different things, or like what's like working like with a female body, working the sequence with a female body, especially when you start working in different.
As a male, I find it, almost quite offensive that that a man should tell a woman how to practice around, menstruation and pregnancy and things like that. It's like, you've got no idea.
You have no idea. Indeed, you have no idea.
Yeah, it's Sorry,
you can have good intentions, and that's fantastic, but I mean, there's something there's a blind spot. That's all I'm saying. If you look at the demographics and then the culture, in a way, there's a mismatch. That's something that I see. And then you mentioned the guru. Sorry.
I could have said we're never going to be allowed back into Mysore again. I've been banned already. No,
you've been banned?
No, I'm kidding.
Okay, you'll have to tell. Okay.
Yeah,
not
yet.
Yet.
People who read, I mean, I did this. I mean, I've got a son who's 23, and he's always been, the past couple of years, reminded me to write a book, and couldn't kind of figure out how to approach this book. But I've always done these daft blogs, and so I thought, there we go, the book's already written. I just compiled the blogs, and that's what, I did this book that I think I sent you a link to the last night. Headstand Saved My Life. It's just a kind of a book of blogs that I've written over the years with, and the kind of my first experience in Mysore is in there, which is funny, which is kind of, it's all very kind of truthful, but from that kind of, that cynical Mancunian rocking up with all these kind of holier than thou Ashtangis folks. Sorry, what were we talking about then?
Well, it's very much along those lines. You were talking about
the guru,
about the guru culture in a way, and you were mentioning that you're somewhat cynical. It's something I can relate. I think the older I get, I'm becoming more cynical, I think.
Well, I find that it's, it's a bit odd that people are fawning over, another person. They want to put them on a pedestal. Basically, I mean, I learned this because I've been studying Zen perhaps for the past 15 or so years. And it's so interesting to see. I kind of feel, like that yoga and Zen feel like the synonyms in some respects. They inform each other, and I've just found it works for me. But the kind of the Zen kind of format, like if a Zen student goes up to the teacher and tries to give, tell me how to live my life, wants to give them their power, the fucking teacher will just whack them around the head and say, figure it out for yourself, go and sit. But I found, certainly within this particular culture, Ashtanga yoga, like, people have been to Mysore, and they all of a sudden, they want to be the guru. They want to, take your power and feel that they've got, I find it quite, yeah, don't know, slightly offensive, really. And I know not everybody's like that, but there's a lot of it, really. People putting themselves.
It's not exactly related to what you're saying, but there's some common ground. Do you know this guy, JP Sears? Does it ring a bell?
JP Sears?
Yeah.
Is it a shop in Hollywood?
No. It sounds like a shop, actually.
I know it does, yeah.
Coach. It's a coach. He's from, actually, I think he's from Ohio, and he lives in Southern California, and he has he's on YouTube. He's huge on YouTube.
Okay.
Well, huge. I don't know. He's rather big on YouTube. But years ago, he used to do sarcastic videos about being kind of spiritual, okay, but in a fake way. Okay. And he used to call it being ultra spiritual. And there were different videos like how can you become gluten intolerant? How can you, I don't know, how can you just be a super ultra spiritual being? And he was talking about stuff like this. And this comes because you go to Mysore and you neglect everything that has happened before. Like, for example, if you were raised in Catholicism, you neglect that. That's not you anymore. But then you start going to Shiva temples like crazy. So you're basically, nothing has changed. The underlying paradigm is still the same. The only thing that's changing is the shape. You used to hold a Bible before, and now you're holding Japamala, which there's nothing wrong with that as far as you are aware. Or as long as you're aware.
This embracing of different cultures and different ideas around spirituality and religion. And for me, I've always had a problem with, you get to Mysore and it's like, okay, you've got to read the Yoga Sutras, you've got to read the Bhagavad Gita. Yeah. I remember, trying to I was halfway through the Yoga Sutras before I was like, man, I'm not reading that. It's just found it impenetrable. I just, it's just says nothing to me, really. And I'm not saying that it doesn't provide, powerful teachings for people. I'm sure it does, but for me, it didn't, and neither did the Bhagavad Gita. But I found kind of like the Zen practice. I know it's attached to Japan, but there's kind of it's this sense of taking responsibility of for yourself and for your life and how you live, and not giving that sense of responsibility away, type of thing. Does that make sense? And I guess, people go to Mysore or start yoga for many different reasons, I guess, and to this idea of finding oneself. Whatever that self is, right? And then you can get to Buddhism and you realize that there is no self, which really throws you. so you're feeding this self that actually doesn't exist, so you're constantly feeding it, and you never get fulfilled because we've gone off on a kind of a slight tangent, but sorry.
No, please go ahead.
Have you got any brothers and sisters?
Me, I'm an only child, which
really?
I did not enjoy that, but it was not my choice, I think.
Do you support Inter Milan or AC Milan?
Milan, no. Madrid, Real Madrid.
Real Madrid, right? Okay.
Real Madrid. In
Real
fact,
Madrid.
There was a time. Are you into soccer? Are you into
football?
Of
course, Matt? I am. Yeah.
Are you Manchester United?
No, come on, mate. City?
Yes. I don't know. City.
Oh. The best team in the land in all the world. We beat you on the way to the final. Sorry.
You did?
Yeah.
Well, easily, I was very much into football. When I was a kid, I was so much into football. My granddad, my grandfather, he was one of the first Real Madrid members.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
One of the first, because he was of course, he's my granddad. He was pretty old. He died, how long ago? Maybe 40 years ago he died. When I was 38 years ago, I was 6 years old when he died. And Yeah, he used to go to the football field every Sunday to watch the match, to watch the game. So he was, I got that in my blood ever since I was a kid. So I was very much into football. Now I'm not into it so much. I need maybe some big game like Champions final or semi-final, something like that. I can do. What about you? Are you still into football? Like heavy supporter?
It's basically. I mean, yeah, it's yeah. I mean, it's I do. I mean, here's the funny thing. If any of the yoga students that come to my classes, if they saw me at a football match, they'd never come again. They'd be like,
you transform
because I turn into a maniac. Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's the kind of it's it's funny. But
sometimes it happens when you go to a game, you transform into a maniac. It can also happen when you're driving, like the road rage. Does that happen to you?
I don't. Well, I've got this camper van, so it never goes that fast anyway. And I had to do a speed awareness course yesterday. I don't know if you know. If you break the speed limit, you can either you get the points, so you have a license, and if you get to 12 points, you get banned. Well, you know about the. And so I've got this old camper van. It doesn't go very fast. Yeah, I managed to break the bloody speed limit, so I had to do a speed awareness course because it's better than the 3 points. So my whole of yesterday afternoon was this speed awareness course.
Okay, I didn't know about that course.
Yeah,
but the camper van it's a cool thing. It must be nice.
Well, it's I found myself that I'm now kind of living in, I'm trying to think, mobile living. That's a phrase I'm going to get to.
Okay.
So now I'm actually living in my camper van. And I'm trying to get my head around. It's a long story why I'm living in a camper van, but it involves divorce and things. So I'm now living in this van, and I'm trying to kind of envisage it as like a modern day yogi's cave. Like at one point we'd lived in a cave in the Himalayas, but now we've got a camper van. It's like a moving cave type of thing. And it's kind of highly ironic, I'm kind of I'm 54 now, and I've never in my whole life lived anywhere for longer than 2 years. So I've moved around a whole lot.
Quite a bit.
Yeah. And now I'm, the irony is I now live in something that moves. Which, I'm still trying to get my head around it. Yeah.
About moving around, I have a question for you. I'm just curious. Do you feel the need when you move around? Well, first of all, is there a place that you consider like, do you have a place to go back to that's kind of stable? Or
well, I've got so all my sisters and my mum live in and around the Manchester area.
Okay.
So I've got kind of family, so I would go back there. Yeah.
Do you have the need when you're moving around? Do you have the need to come back to Manchester now and again to kind of like get a top up? I don't know.
No,
and then
I mean, not
leave again.
No, I mean, because it's hard to explain really, but because we moved around so much as a kid, that's all I knew. So my conditioning was moving. So now at my age, I'm still moving around because it feels like that's if that sounds slightly kind of off the wall, moving feels like home.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Yeah, it does. Now you have your mobile yoga cave.
Exactly. Yeah.
That you can take with you anywhere. I was asking because I have this need to move every now and again. Like when I spend a certain time in one place, I have the desire, the urge to move. And that's a reality for me. And at the same time, then I have the urge to come back to my base, which for me is Madrid, Spain. And then I need to leave again. So that's kind of like how my life flows. It's been flowing for the last maybe 20 years.
Okay.
And I was wondering if that happens to everybody, or
I mean, I guess there's also an interesting, I mean, you know, whether it's just that I've landed doing this practice, which is moving a lot, you know, through vinyasa, you know, the whole thing. It's which I quite like. There's these kind of loose connections, loose threads almost, you know. But then again, you know, I can sit, you know, I do this Zen thing where your eyes are open, you're just kind of looking at this blank wall, where I can sit, you know, for an hour just being completely, you know, still. I mean, my mind's going bonkers, but I can still kind of sit still. Yeah.
So, you also do some pranayama, you mentioned, and some like you swim in the sea.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's where I was before. I mean, I've been in the sea 3 times today.
Today?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. I mean, it's like baking hot in England at the minute, especially on the coast where I am in Deal. It's beautiful beach, and it's pebbles, because good for me because I don't like sand. I've got this really weird thing. I don't. Yeah,
it's really dirty.
Yeah,
it's annoying.
Pebbles is great, and then I mean, and I've been every day this week. There's a sidewalk, like a pavement area next to the beach, so I just get my mat out and start doing my practice. You know, I get lots of kind of weird and fancy looks and comments and things, but I don't care. I just do my practice, sit, boom, go in the sea. You know,
now that you're talking about, I have 2 things for you, but you're talking about doing your practice outside. I remember when I still lived in England, I went camping to Snowdonia in Wales.
In Wales, yeah.
Yeah, I never go camping. I never go camping.
Well, I mean, I get, yeah. I've got this camper van, and I'm like, I'm not really a camper van type of guy, really. And now, you know, I'm actually living in one, and it's like, I didn't think that was, you know. Yeah, well, here we are, right? Yeah.
So I went to this camping place in Snowdonia.
Oh yeah, Snowdonia.
And I wanted to practice, so I brought my yoga mat, and I came out in the morning to do my practice. And there are this tiny little insects, midges.
Okay, yeah, midges, yeah.
And they come to you, especially when you're breathing. And so I was doing my Ashtanga yoga practice, and I started breathing a lot, and I was like full of midges. Like, I came back to London with like
little bites on you.
Yeah, full of them, and I was like, I hate this camping thing. I remember at Hamish's shala, I practiced with Hamish for some time in London. At Hamish's shala, there was this lady that had a name tag on her yoga mat, and
really?
With her name, and then you flipped it, and it said, "I love not camping," and I said, "That's me.
Yeah.
I love not camping too."
Get a T-shirt.
Yeah, I love now camping.
I mean, my only camping experience, which was completely embarrassing because I'm not a camping guy either, as you could guess. And I'd gone, this was maybe about 15 years ago. And it was in a place called Shell Island, and also in Wales. What is it with Wales and camping? I've gone to this place. So Eden, my son, is 23, must have been about 8 at the time. So me and Eden, my eldest son, we went along, bought this tent. And, you know, and I'm trying to put this fucking tent up, and, you know, it's, you know, talk about road rage. I had tent rage. I just could not put this tent together at all. And this guy walked past, and he must have been about, you know, 70, 75 or something, old dude walking past. And he just said, "Do you want some help, son? Do you want some help, sonny?" And I said, "Yes, please." And he basically just put the tent up for me because I couldn't do it. So, yeah. I mean, you can get these fancy tents these days that just boom, pop up, don't you?
I didn't get fancy. I didn't get a fancy one. I got a crappy one.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, I'm not going to camp in. I don't generally like fields with loads of people in.
So swimming in the sea, another thing came to my mind. An old manager I used to work in corporate sales. I used to sell software. I have no idea whatsoever of technology, but somewhat I ended up selling it for a few years in Dublin and in England. And one of my managers, he used to swim in the sea. He was from Bray in Ireland. He used to swim in the sea. And he always he used to tell me that it was like his yoga.
Okay, nice. Well, I mean, I mean, the whole thing started because I lived in Los Angeles for a while, and I mean, even all this bloody yoga and doing meditation, I have terrible sleep patterns. I don't sleep very well, never have done. So I started doing cold showers in the morning. But right, okay, perfect. I'll just do cold showers in the morning, and then COVID happened, and then we had to move back to England. And we moved back to Deal, where I am now, and a friend has a house in Deal. So we lived at his house, and his house is literally 100 meters, no more than 100 meters from the sea. So I'm thinking, right, I'm going to do my cold water. I'm going to do my showers in the sea in the first thing in the morning. So I'll just right, I'll do this. And just kept on going in every day. And it's like sometimes you get these incredible sunrises, and just being in this water, it's like biblical kind of just about. I mean, it's the English Channel, so I'm dressing it up a bit. It was proper cold, but yeah, it was.
Like we doing that wing hug.
Oh yeah, I didn't really get into that. I mean, I kind of digged it a little bit, but it was more about just this, this being in the sea. It was just kind of, spiritual experience.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Do you know what I mean?
I see what you're saying. No, that's cool. Something I like is having water around, and as you can imagine, well, if you don't imagine, I'm telling you, Madrid, Spain, it's now famous for all the water available.
No.
In rivers or of course sea, forget about it. The closest beach we have is 4 hours away, and it's packed.
Oh, really?
It's probably a place where you don't feel like going. I don't like packed places, and so something that I do see the value of having like large masses of water near you. I like it.
Yeah, I do. It's kind of it's become kind of part of, like, this morning, I parked my van just literally at the seafront. I get up 6 o'clock, I do this pranayama practice, and then put my shorts on, boom, straight in the sea. Literally, and it's ineffable. It's just, there's no words to describe it really. And it's just feels just so incredible to be just there in the water, the sun coming up. Yeah. And even, when it rains, which it does a lot of the time, I can go in. I've been in the sea when it's snowing.
It's snowing?
Yeah.
Seriously?
That was an interesting kind of, I mean, it wasn't snowing hard, but going in when it's raining is fun as well. Yeah. So, when I started first going in, I just started going in every day. And, I moved in May, June, July, August, September, October, getting a little bit colder, November, getting a little bit colder. And then, people would be going in gloves, kind of, and I'd be like, I don't need the gloves. I don't need. And it got to one point where I'd got in and I was kind of swimming with one hand because it was too cold, and I would change hands. And then all of a sudden I'd have to have my hands out, like, look, because I was drowning or something because it was too cold. So I got the gloves in the end.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that. And I would like to live in a place for some time that will give me that opportunity to just jump in the sea.
Oh, you should do it.
Yeah.
Where's next after where are you going next after Madrid?
I don't know. I'm figuring it out, but I'll keep you posted.
Keep me posted. Yeah. Come and visit me in Deal.
No?
Yeah, no, I said come visit me in Deal.
Oh yeah, I'll come.
No.
I'll come.
Nice. It is. I mean, it's kind of this little kind of on the outside looking in, it could be like just appear like another kind of generic, UK seaside town. But once you get in here, it's like this real kind of hub of kind of a lot of artists and things live here.
Cool.
It's a cool little place. Well, I'm here, so that makes it cool.
That's precisely the reason.
I know, right?
So it's not far away from Brighton, isn't it? You mentioned
it's about 2 hours from Brighton. I mean, it's an hour from London on the train. Well, it's about an hour.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, so it's nothing. It's just nothing at all.
I've been wanting to go back to London for some time. I suppose that with like everyone else with COVID, it kind of put people's lives on hold big time.
Yeah, well, it did. I mean, and then people just got scared to go out, and and people just are kind of starting to venture out now. Well, a little bit further. And again, to come back to Ashtanga Yoga School, it was like hearing from people, and I know, like, I know Richard Freeman does like a month-long intensive and keynote doors, those type of things. But, you know, a lot of people don't have, you know, the time to just go and do yoga, you know. So that's why we decided we'll do it over a year, you know, because people always can figure it. And the plan is, so if we meet at the last month of the year, last weekend of the month, yes. And then if you have to miss a weekend, you can just do the same weekend the year after. If that makes sense, yeah, because the modules kind of say the same, yeah. So no, it's been amazing. I mean, you know, to feel like it's worthwhile is, you know, listening to people. Just one woman was like, it's changed my life completely, and you're like, whoa, you know, just incredible. Even an old cynic like me brings a tear to my eye.
You also have a heart, a soft core somewhere.
And there, yeah, absolutely, yeah, it's there.
Yeah, those kind of programs. I mean, if you have like 1 month, this is at least what I've experienced. If you have 1 month to devote, that's amazing, because it gives you one type of experience that can be very powerful. If you break it up into different modules, it also has benefits, not only because it's easier to make it fit into your life, but also it gives you time to integrate what you're learning.
Absolutely. You know, people can go away and spend the month before they come back again, kind of integrating what they've learned into their practice, you know, should there. And it's not, you know, like, it's not, there's no kind of, you know, people don't pass or fail, you know. People come and it's, you know, it's like anything, you get out what you put in 20%, you're only going to get out 20%. But if people come and immerse and, you know, put in 100%, and as a teacher, I guess, you know what that's like. I mean, maybe it's different for you, but if I'm teaching and there's a student that they're just putting 20% in, that's all I can give them back, you know. But you know, I guess when I say 20%, I don't mean that just as in commitment to the practice. Yeah, sorry, yeah, went off on one then. Again.
No, I think that kind of makes sense, having things organized that way, and a little more spread in time, and also understanding sometimes you have, when we talk about stamina, it's not only a physical thing, it's also mental.
Of course, yeah.
You were talking about percentages, and the mental factor really came into my mind.
Well, for me, you know, that's the reason I got into Ashtanga, because of you know, to try and fix my mind. So it's, you know, for me, the mind component of Ashtanga yoga is the foundation of the whole bloody thing. You know, whether it's, you know, the drishti or the deep breathing or whatever, it, you know, always comes back to, you know, here's another Pattabhi Jois quote: medicine for the mind, right? You know, and for me, it really is, and still continues, and that's why I keep doing it. You know, that's why I always keep doing it, because it, you know. It's this practice that I can always come back to. It's always there, and it's for me, it's very simple. You know, everything, the books and the this and the that and the different sequences and series and what can you do, what you can't do. It's all peripheral. Doesn't matter. It's just, you know, me and the mat and practice. It's, you know, there's nothing more simple than that for me.
How has your practice changed over this 25 years? If you compare when you started to now?
Well, I guess because I've played a lot of football as a kid, I've always been fairly sporty and strong. I mean, here's the funny thing, that when I left school, or when they threw me out.
You got thrown out.
But when I left school, I was young. I was kind of, you know, I was undecided what I was. I think I was in a band at the time. I thought, right, I'm going to be a rock star, you know. And one of my sister's boyfriends was a plasterer, you know, and so I was his labourer. So I, you know, 17, 18, you get a big tin bath, and you fill it like a third full of water, and then you put this big bag of plaster in, and then you mix with it like this big kind of fork thing. And it was brutally hard work, like, you know, but it just gave me all this upper body strength. So like all these years later, I got to Ashtanga, I was like, oh, I can do that to back. Yeah, because I've got, you know, I've got all the strength that I've got from mixing plaster. So I kind of found the physicality of it quite, quite enjoyed that because, but I guess the kind of the marrying of the physical with the flexible was difficult. I've kind of got through different sequences and stuff, and sometimes I don't have any agenda. I know there's some kind of, you do one series on one day, another. I've never really followed that. Don't like people telling me what to do. That's another problem of mine. I'll set my own agenda, really. And my favorite quote is from an old English philosopher called Bertrand Russell. I mean, he's dead now, but the quote was, because he was a kind of a famous atheist, I think. But the quote is, "I would never die for my beliefs because I might be wrong," which I love. So I kind of live my life like that. I'm doing this today. I don't, I've not drunk alcohol for 25 years, and it's just, I stopped for a week, which turned into 25 years. And it's like, I'm not asking anyone else not to drink, and not drinking might be the wrong thing to do. And tomorrow I might start. Same with being a vegetarian. I've been a vegetarian a similar length of time. And I'm not asking anyone else to be a vegetarian. I'm just, tomorrow I might start eating meat, but I don't know. Nothing that I can think that, like I say, I'll never die for my beliefs because I might be wrong. I guess there's too much in some ways, this idea of my way, the highway, too many kind of fundamentalists, and that idea of, absolute certainty breeds kind of fundamentalism. There's too many people who are, I'm absolutely certain it's this way. And, this idea of, the practice was taught to me this way, and this is the tradition, or that's the tradition. And, I kind of figured out that there's a better word to use than tradition. We should be just using trend. This is the trend, or that's the trend, rather than this idea, because it's not it's not a tradition, really, is it? It's just, I don't know.
It's a fairly new tradition. If you talk about the Ashtanga yoga tradition, it's fairly new to call it tradition, and that's the way I see it.
But if people want to believe it's 5,000 years old, I've got no problem with that. It's people want to believe what they want to believe.
Yeah, that's true. But however, I think it's good to keep oneself in check. And many times when those behaviors come up and you see them inside of yourself, it's like you need to hold on to some sort of truth or dogma, if you like, because you're not taking the time to figure things out for yourself. And maybe this is a judgment, really, but that's the way I see it. Figure out the things out for yourself, and
that's I say to students, getting your legs behind your head, it's not advanced yoga. I mean, it's quite straight, it's not advanced yoga, it's just advanced flexibility. So for me, when I'm saying yoga, I mean yoga asana. So advanced yoga is understanding your body, understanding the posture, and fitting those two things together, right? And so, but that only comes from longevity and understanding, and returning back to practice and having kind of some sense of a dedication to keep doing it, to know that change is possible. When the microcosm, I said before, macrocosm, what can happen on your mat, change is possible off the mat. And where if we can learn to make the mind kind of more flexible, that could be the most important teaching, not to be so dogmatic, not to be so certain about things, really, not it's to be so problem. Kind of, I kind of, I remember there's he passed away recently, actually, or last couple of years, a guy called Chris Barber. I don't know if you ever heard of him. No, not Chris Barber. He was Cliff Barber, he's called. Yeah. He was he lived kind of, Danny Paradise. Have you heard of him?
I do, yeah.
Not sure that's his real name. I've never got to the bottom of that.
I have no idea.
Danny Paradise.
I don't know. I thought that was his real name. That's how naive I am.
Oh, really? Stage name, isn't it? But it's called Smith. Anyway, so he was basically one of Danny's teachers. And he used to live in Crete. You know Crete. You know there was a practice place in Crete, but he used to live by the side. He lived by the side of it. He was like a proper renunciate. You know, just lived by the side of a river in Crete. And I went over and spent a week with him one time. It was great. You know, you just kind of sleeping rough next to this river. It was great. No, proper. And there was no Shala police.
No Shala police.
Telling you what you should and shouldn't be doing. Which was good for a start. But anyway, he came out with this really interesting phrase. He said, you know, yoga teachers get the students they deserve. And I always think,
I've heard that before.
Okay.
From a friend in Mysore. She told me yoga teachers get the students they deserve. Maybe she picked it from him.
Possibly, I don't know. Yeah. But it was like, that stuck with me all these years, thinking, you know, especially when you get a difficult student, you think, what have I done to deserve that?
It's not the other person, it's usually you.
Oh yeah, of course.
You.
Always.
That's where you have to look.
Yeah, always. I know. Well.
That's funny. So Matt, tell me about Yoga Mind, this project that you have with
funny enough, you're talking Yoga Mind, and Chandler, the guy who's doing it with, is just texting me about something or other.
Stars aligning.
So Chandler, I met Chandler when I was working in LA. I used to run a Mysore program in LA, and he was one of the students. And then so we kind of become friends, really, and we've been friends ever since. And we're kind of, you know, he's a chartered psychologist, and he's very, you know, both interested about, as I mentioned before, about the mind aspect of the practice and the benefits that I've got from practice for to, you know, to help me out, and knowing, and him similarly, you know, as a psychologist, it's, you know, I said to him the other day, I think it's a little bit of a fallacy that you can talk yourself well, you know, really. I think there has to be a combination of things that you can be doing alongside, whether, you know, it's cold water swimming, whether it's Ashtanga yoga, pranayama, chanting, you know, there's a whole host of things.
I love chanting.
Yeah,
I do chanting quite a bit, actually.
Do you? Yeah,
quite a bit. Really into it.
Yeah,
for the last few years.
I kind of don't mind it. I've been doing it a little bit. Remember Swamiji from Chamundi Hill? Well, the old Swami, he's passed away now.
I do. Did you do it with him?
Well, he's passed away now, but when I first went to Mysore in 2000, I kind of, someone told me about this old Swami lives on the hill in the cave. Yeah. And so I went and visit him, and he was a really cool guy. And one time when I was going through a kind of a really bad depersonalization episode, I emailed him because he had a computer. He was a modern yogi. Had a laptop. You know, and I said, you know, I'm struggling, Swami, and he sent me this this chant to do, which is around a saint called Raghavendra. The Raghavendra temple is in where is it now? It's in kind of past Bangalore. Anyway, so the story with Raghavendra is, maybe it was in the 16th century. He was like this yogi, this saint, and he took live samadhi. He kind of sat, you know, was doing his jala mantra, and then he just sat and went still. And then his devotees built this temple around him while he was still kind of alive. And anyway, so there's a temple up in it's not in northern India, but it's past Bangalore. Anyway, I went. So one time, the next time I went to Mysore, I went up to the temple with Swamiji, which was great. Well, the 8-hour journey on Indian roads wasn't great, but we got to this temple, and you know, basically only kind of swamis and holy men can go to the inner circle where the smaller temple is. There's the outer temple where any Tom, Dick, and Deirdre can go to, and then the smaller one, which is for all the proper swamis. But he knew a man. I always knew a man. So I got to go to the inner circle too with all the swamis and kind of do this chant and you know, circumnavigate the temple, which was just incredible. Yeah. Sorry. So chanting, I do a little bit of chanting. So I'll keep doing this chant. You know, sometimes it's great, really, you know, when I'm kind of my mind's kind of going off on one, I'm kind of losing it. I'm like, oh, I'm living in a van, you know, I'm a loser. Da, da, da. I just, you know, tune into this chant, Om Shri Raghavendra Namaha Om Shri, and I visualize this his face, and you know, so it can be very powerful.
It is very powerful. Chanting practice, it's very powerful. And you're talking about Swamiji, I think he came once a few years ago. If we're talking about the same person, which I'm not sure, we're about to find out. He came to a conference with Sharat, like in 2016, I think. I think if this is the same guy we're talking about, did he pass a long time ago?
No, it passed about 2-3 years ago.
So maybe this is it. We're talking about the same person. I remember him, and he gave a conference on that Saturday. And the first thing he said, we were talking about the ocean of milk, the churning of the ocean. Yeah. And he said, the first thing that comes out is a hala hala.
Hala hala. Okay, yeah.
And I thought, like, you got my attention, like right off the bat. Like now I'm listening.
Well, you know, when I first went to Mysore, and you know, remember, I was just this kind of shit kicker from Manchester, and I kind of felt like a fish out of water. You know, I used to just go up Chunmundi Hill, walk up the steps, go in the little cave, and just watch him do puja, because it's kind of fascinating. And I mean, he used to be a journalist in what's it called, Chennai, Madras. What's it called now? Madras, Chennai, whatever. One Chennai in it. And he used to be a reporter in Chennai. So his English was quite good. So he could always have a comment, well, because my Hindi's kind of, well, you know, Kannada, Hindi, whatever they speak in Mysore. So I was always able to have a conversation, and it just, you know, it was just kind of simple and great and amazing. He was just such a, you know, a beautiful person for me to just to hang out with, and I've just found it.
That sounds really nice.
Yeah, it was incredible.
So Yoga Mind, leaving the chanting.
Oh yeah, sorry, back to yoga.
Side.
So we've kind of go back and forth about, you know, could we kind of teach together? And I came up with this, you know, I came up with Yoga Mind, and I didn't know exactly what Yoga Mind was, but we kind of sat down and plowed through it. And it's just kind of pooling our resources, our skill sets, really. And he's a chartered psychologist, so he's got, you know, the certificates to prove it's like the real deal. Yeah. And so it's kind of just a lot of stuff around the polyvagal theory, but then we tie in kind of, you know, some pranayama, some chanting, and you know, to kind of tie those two things together. We kind of just created this like format, really. Well, it's a workshop, I guess, like a 2-day kind of thing. But we've got big plans for Yoga Mind. We're going to write a book. We're going to do a soundtrack of chanting, and yeah, because I want to do this chant, but kind of make it a little bit more contemporary. Don't know how I'm going to do that. Yeah,
that's amazing. I recently.
Can you chant? You've got a good voice. We need some more person. Oh, do you?
I have a fantastic voice.
I might. Yeah. We can audition you then. See if you can pass. See if you can get you on our album. Okay.
Yeah, let's do it. No, I recently created a small chanting book, because it's something it's something I love practicing, and I do it with students quite a bit as well, like quite a bit of chanting. Every Friday we get online and we do our chants, or if I do retreats or whatever, there's always chanting there, because it's one of the things that I have found to be more transformative, like my preference more than reading the Yoga Sutras or something like that, which I don't really get. I mean, I find it entertaining to some extent, and at some point it becomes boring. So and I don't
I mean,
I don't see how they apply, really.
The cynical side of me just says it's some esoteric meditation manual. That's it, you know, to feel like it's got any connection to what the, you know, the jumping around stuff that we do on a rectangular mat is. But I mean, people can make sense, but that's all right. And it's like, you know, I'm always coming back to that. Find something that inspires you, and if it inspires you, great, you know. And that's why I'm always teaching. I'm teaching from a place of things that I've found that have inspired me, whether it's asana, whether it's Zen, whether it's cold water swimming, whether it's a little bit of chanting that I do, a little bit of pranayama that I do, you know. hula hoops.
Hula hoops, that's a good one. Maybe I should try that.
No, I was pretty well. I wasn't bad. It wasn't bad as I thought I was going to be. Yeah. So so yoga mind.
Moves.
Pardon?
That gives you some moves. The hula hoop. It gives you like.
Listen,
like
I can move. I've got the moves. You know, when I was I've got these 4 older sisters, and so my eldest sister Zoe, when she was, because she's 8 years older than me, so when she was maybe 16, so I was 8. Her boyfriend at the time was into Northern Soul. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Northern Soul movement. You should get into it. It's great, just incredible. It'd be not got enough time to go into, but this kind of Northern Soul was it was a little bit like Motown-esque type songs. You know, you've heard of Motown. You know what Motown is. It's music similar to that, let's say. And there was a big kind of scene up in Northern England that got known as Northern Soul. And there was this kind of place where everyone would go to and play the records, and they would do this certain kind of Northern Soul dancing, you know, which is a very certain technique. And so when I was 8, my sister's boyfriend, Wayne, I think he was called, would bring his Northern Soul records around to our house and teach me all these kind of great Northern Soul moves, which, you know, some of it's kind of normal kind of, but there was lots of kind of swallow dives and kicking and whoops and things. So, yeah.
So it's already there. The moves are there.
They're already there. Yeah.
Yeah, and the hula hoop, it just came.
It just
naturally.
came. I tell you what, I seen once see Grace. Sorry. Once see, you know, Grace Jones, right? Grace Jones.
No, who's that?
Grace Jones. You've heard of Grace Jones, the singer? Come on, mate.
I don't think I have. No.
Grace Jones. Everyone knows who Grace Jones is.
Well, I don't.
Oh, anyway.
I also have my yoga cave. It's only you, Matt.
Okay.
Not only you.
But you've heard of Pull Up to the Bumper, Baby. You've heard that one? Or Slave to the Rhythm. Anyway, Grace Jones, go and Google it. I'll send you some links. She's an incredible singer, right? And one time I saw her live. She did this song called Slave to the Rhythm. And she came on and sang it. It was like an encore. It lasts for about 10 minutes. And she did it, stood still, almost motionless, with a hula hoop for the whole 10 minutes singing this song. And, you know, she's this beautiful, tall, black, kind of strong, you know, energy vibe. And she was just, and I've never been kind of just like, I love this one. It was just, you know, I thought, yeah. So I wanted to do hula hoops, but I wasn't Grace Jones when I did it.
Get in there.
You know, Frank Jones.
Get in there. So what are your plans with Yoga Mind? Because you're going to be touring around Europe like a rock
so
star,
we're going to, I know,
Tyler.
That's funny, right? I mean, we reached out to all these charlatans, and we're doing Norway and Belgium and even like places like Sarajevo, and the Yoga Mind Roadshow is rolling into town, which is quite nice, really. You know, it's just this kind of combination of, and these energies, because Chandler's quite kind of a little bit similar to me, a little bit manic type of vibe. We just need to make sure that we're coherent when we talk, you know. And I'm kind of looking forward to it. First one's in a couple of weeks in Norway, and then
so you started quite soon.
Yeah. So
you're going to be doing that for the full year.
Well, we're kind of going to see how it goes, and we've kind of got the tour of Europe, and then because of he's in the States, actually, we're going to try and explore getting some gigs in America next year, or Northern America. Yeah, maybe Canada too. See how it goes down.
Fantastic. You know, on my bucket list, there are 2 trips. One of them is flying into Vancouver. Now that you're talking about Canada, flying into Vancouver and driving all the way down the west coast into Mexico.
That's what you're going to do.
That. That's on my bucket list. That's
on your bucket list, right? Yeah, it's a long way, that, mate.
Yeah. So you can do like the Yoga Mind.
Of that.
Show.
Yeah. But I kind of like the Route 66, go from New York across to LA. That'd be, That would be
but
nice, mind you, you'd have to go to Middle America and probably, you know, I'm not sure Yoga Mind might go to Trump County. Yeah. Well, probably like, you know, they need it most, right?
I think so. Well, I'm going to tell you something real quick. I had to, 1 year I went to Encinitas. I had to lay over in Minneapolis in Minnesota. I was traveling with my yoga mat, and
not me.
Huh?
Not me. I'm not your yoga mat. It's a shit
No?
joke. Sorry.
Well, that was me. I was with my yoga mat. I do have that kind of, I need my yoga mat. Anyway, I was traveling with it. And
see, I'm not that. Sorry, just call that thought.
That's fine.
I've not got a yoga mat. I've just got one that I don't. Yeah, I don't have that connection really. I'm just happy to use it.
Where do you practice? On top of what? On the floor?
Well, I do have a mat, but it's not a mat that's special to me. I've not like I've got this connection to my. As long as I've got, whatever it is, 6 by 3 foot, so I'm good to go. I don't. Yeah. Anyway, so you've got your yoga mat. You're going. Go. Sorry.
And I got caught. I got stopped at border control because they thought I was gonna do something weird. That it made no sense that one lady with a yoga mat that was coming. I was living in England back then. It made no sense that I came into the US with a yoga mat. What are you doing here? So they actually hold me at border control for about 1 hour asking me questions.
Oh, really?
And playing with my mind. Yeah. So I'm saying that, maybe in the middle of the country.
Did they say, right, let's see you do some sun salutations. Let's.
Yeah.
We don't believe we think.
Yeah. Well, I passed the test, and then I could carry on with my trip. But yeah, that was. Wow.
Where was that?
That was unexpected.
Where was that? In Canada?
No, it was in Minneapolis.
Oh, Minneapolis. All right, yeah.
In Minnesota. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they probably thought you were some kind of, she-devil.
Yeah, I'm not coming to this place ever in my life.
Fuck you.
Never say never, though. Anyway.
Oh, well, yeah.
No, I'm actually excited about your Yoga Mind project. It sounds amazing.
Yeah, well, kind of. Yeah, I'm always keen to kind of, taking it off from throwing a mascara. As powerful as throwing a mascara can be, of course. I'm going to say throwing a mascara, I just mean practice, right? But and certainly through Chandler and what he's been doing and his explorations into the polyvagal theory and all, and finding some kind of correlation between the two. Right, and certainly there's some Zen things going in there too, around this kind of central nervous system type stuff. So yeah, it's all kind of I think it's all kind of useful stuff. And again, back to the idea of finding, inspiring people, giving people, something kind of different to think about, an approach. Yeah. And I guess it comes in, I like the word inspiration. Comes from someone told me maybe this is not right, but inspired is being in spirit, being inspired, being in spirit. Yeah. And that, kind of being kind of at one with oneself, being in spirit, being kind of feeling whole, and I guess that I feel, as much as I kind of make a joke about being a fraud, which I kind of feel most of the time, when I'm in a room doing teaching, I feel like I'm kind of, I feel that kind of inspiration that that sounds a bit wanky. I don't mean it to be, but as in I kind of feel this, I feel I've got some value here. I've got some juice that I feel, I can pass on something. But you can't please all the people all the time, and
that's true.
After this podcast, I'll be on people's crossing me off their list of teachers to go to. Maybe you too. Maybe you better not release it just in case you did that podcast with that Matt Ryan.
I think I will release it. I will take the risk.
I'm just telling you now.
Yeah, no problem.
It comes back to haunt you if you apply for Mysore and suddenly if you don't get accepted.
Well, I've got accepted already, so
but you might suddenly rock up and you'll be like that. No, sorry, you've suddenly been bumped off the list because you did this podcast. No, I'm only kidding.
We're talking about being in spirit, and I was thinking of your second series course. How are you in spirit when you're doing Kapotasana?
Here's a different kind of attitude. People say to me, Kapotasana. I mean, again, looking it through, that idea of grabbing the ankles is and I don't use, you know, I think it was David Swenson's fault, as I love David Swenson, but he came up with that word modification. And when you say to someone you need to modify it, that feels to me it's almost a little bit negative. Yeah, it's like you can't do the full version. You're gonna have to do a shit version because you can't do the full version.
Yeah.
You got my, so so I kind of say just how can you, back to that idea, here's this posture, here's what it's trying to do, and here's your body. Let's try and fit those two things together. So for you, it might just be kind of reaching back. I mean, I do this kind of thing where I get a you know what a broom is, a brush, and I get people to hold the brush and kind of lean them back and slowly, you know, work that way. That's feels quite useful. That's their kind of, there's their kapotasana. And I guess, you know, back to the for my own journey into it, people say, does it get easier? I say no. It doesn't. You just get used to the intensity. And I guess by that, if you just kind of know it's going to be intense, I mean, this is how I kind of feel about it. You know, I've not got a kind of a super flexible back and never have done, you know, I just kind of make do with what I've got. So kapotasana, yeah, I like it. I like, yeah, I like all the postures really. Yeah. I've kind of, I've made peace with them.
That's an important part, making peace with the postures.
Yeah.
That's an important part. Matt, we've been talking for nearly 1.5 hours.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I've kind of gone on a bit. You'll have to edit. Mindful editing.
No
like,
editing.
Here's Matt Ryan, and then edit it to the end bit, and then 5-minute podcast. Yeah. No,
like it flowed really well. Like time flew for me, at least. It was very entertaining.
Oh, well, that's good.
Very spontaneous as well, and it's something I appreciate, especially because we've never connected in person before, or not in person. We're not connecting in person now, but directly. We've never
like
spoken
brother and
like
sister,
this.
Right? Brother and sister Ashtangis, aren't we?
Yeah. And so, especially when you don't know the person, you don't have a lot of background about them. They don't know you either. Sometimes conversations can be a little more awkward at first, and so I appreciate that you were just like so open and so fresh and so
well, I
willing.
guess, I mean,
it was fantastic.
I kind of, that's who I am really. I don't kind of hide behind, I'm not, you know, there's no pretense. This is who I am. I'm really honest and open about that. And even, you know, some of the stuff that I documented recently about struggles around mental health, it's all there in blogs and things. I don't hide anything. I don't present myself. And I you know, like some teachers who can do the Instagram very well, and they've got all the smiling pictures. And I think it's not real life, that, mate, to me. You know, we have to be honest with ourselves. Yoga's not a magic fucking wand, right? I mean, it can help and it's a useful tool, but you know, but we also have to acknowledge, you know, the shadow and the dark side, and there's shit going to happen.
Very true.
You know, and we have to be prepared for that. And sometimes, you know, yoga don't work so good, and you know, there's going to be times where, you know, you just have to kind of,
That's what I like about the chanting.
Right.
That's actually what drew me into chanting, like learning about. Every time I've been to Mysore,
the drugs don't work, but the chanting does.
Yeah, but your blog post was the drugs don't work, but I have it here.
Oh, yeah.
But the Ashtanga does.
Oh, right, yeah. I mean, if you read that, I mean, it'll give you a little bit of background about the whole depersonalization thing, really.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I've kind of struggled with it kind of on and off for 30 years. It's brutal. Yeah. We don't need to go into that now.
Well, Matt, it was fantastic to talk to you.
Oh, yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Very nice to connect as well.
Yeah, me too. And it's been fun.
We'll be in touch. Give me 1 second. Wow. I'm going to stop recording. Give me 1 second if I know how to do it. Okay.